Shajah CanvaWala on all of my social media platforms. So today I'm back with another wonderful talk with tech session, and today, as always, our tech is Colony, and today we will have a chit chat session on the wonderful topic of the hidden cost of being perfect. So let's jump right into it.
Hey, hope your Tuesday is off to a good start.
Yeah,
What's
my
up?
yeah, my Tuesday is after a good start. So thank you so much for giving your time and coming on our session. So my first question with you is, what does being perfect mean to you?
Gotcha. Perfect, huh? That's a loaded question, honestly. It's something people chase, but it's kind of a mirage. To me, perfect implies a static, unattainable ideal, like a finished product with no room for growth or evolution. It suggests a lack of flaws, and frankly, flaws are what make things and people interesting. It's the imperfections that tell the story, right? I think striving for excellence is a much healthier goal than striving for perfection. Because excellence acknowledges effort, learning, and the beauty of the process. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that very much resonates. So thank you so much for giving your resonating answer. So now could you please tell us that why do people feel pressure to be perfect?
That's a good one. Why the pressure? I think it's a whole cocktail of things, honestly. Partly it's societal. We're bombarded with images of perfect lives and bodies and careers, especially on social media. Creates this unrealistic standard that most people can't possibly live up to. Then there's the fear of judgment. People worry about what others will think if they make a mistake or fall short. And sometimes it's internal, a need for control, a desire for approval, a deep-seated insecurity. It could also be tied to childhood experiences, maybe growing up in an environment where mistakes weren't tolerated. It's like, we get conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to our achievements and our ability to meet these impossible standards. It's exhausting, really. Does that land?
Yeah, that very much lands. So thank you so much for giving your contextualized answers. So now could you please tell us that what are some emotional costs of trying to be perfect all the time?
Land? You're testing me with. Okay, land. Got it. Sorry, still calibrating to unique phrasing. Right, the emotional cost of chasing perfection. Oh boy, where to start? It's pretty steep, actually. Anxiety is a big one. Constantly worrying about making mistakes or falling short creates a lot of stress and worry. Then there's self-doubt. You're always striving for something unattainable. You inevitably feel inadequate. It can lead to depression, burnout, and a really negative self-image. It also impacts relationships. Perfectionists can be overly critical of themselves and others, which can strain connections. And it can stifle creativity and risk-taking. If you're afraid to fail, you're less likely to try new things or push yourself outside your comfort zone. Honestly, it robs you of joy and spontaneity. It's a really tough cycle to be in. It's kind of sad when you think about it.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that per- perf- can perfect can perfectionism lead to stress or burnout?
Absolutely. It's almost a guarantee, honestly. Perfectionism and burnout are like best friends in a really unhealthy way. The constant pressure to meet impossibly high standards creates chronic stress, which depletes your emotional and physical resources. You're essentially running on fumes, trying to maintain this facade of flawlessness. And that takes a toll. It leads to exhaustion, cynicism, and a sense of ineffectiveness. Those are all classic symptoms of burnout. Perfectionists also tend to be really self-critical, which exacerbates the stress. They're never satisfied with their accomplishments, always focusing on what they could have done better. It's a vicious cycle. Plus, they often struggle to delegate or ask for help because they don't trust anyone else to meet their standards. That just adds to the workload and increases the burnout. It's a really dangerous path. You've got to learn to let go, to accept imperfections, and to prioritize your well-being.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that how does the fear of failure connect to perfectionism?
That's a core connection, really. The fear of failure is often the engine driving perfectionism. They're deeply intertwined. For a perfectionist, failure isn't just a setback, it's a reflection of their self worth. It's seen as evidence of inadequacy, a confirmation of their deepest fears. So they try to avoid failure at all costs, which leads them to set unrealistically high standards and exert excessive control. It's like they believe that if they can just prevent any possibility of failure, they can protect themselves from that pain. But of course, that's impossible. And the irony is, the fear of failure actually makes failure more likely because it leads to anxiety, overthinking, and a reluctance to take risks. It's a really self-defeating pattern. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that very much makes sense. So thank you so much for giving your contextualized answer. So now could you please tell us that why do some people hide their struggles behind a perfect image?
That's a really insightful question. Why hide struggles? It's about control, I think, and a desire for validation. People often feel like they need to present a perfect image to the world to be accepted, to be loved, to be seen as successful. It's like a performance, a way of managing how others perceive them. Vulnerability feels risky. Admitting struggles feels like weakness. So they build this facade, this carefully curated persona, to project an image of strength and confidence. Social media definitely plays a role in that too. It's so easy to present an idealized version of your life online, and it can be tempting to compare yourself to others. It's also a defense mechanism, honestly. Hiding struggles can be a way of protecting themselves from judgment or rejection. It's a really isolating experience, though, because it prevents them from forming genuine connections with others. It creates a barrier between them and the people they care about.
Alright, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well clarified answer. So now could you please tell us that can the need to be perfect damage relationships?
Absolutely. It can really chip away at relationships, honestly. At relationships. Perfectionism often creates distance and tension because, as we talked about, it can lead to being overly critical, not just of yourself, but of others too. You're holding everyone to these impossibly high standards, which puts a lot of pressure on them. It can also make it hard to offer or accept support. A perfectionist might be reluctant to ask for help because they don't want to appear vulnerable or incompetent. And they might be quick to offer unsolicited advice or criticism, which can come across as judgmental and controlling. It can also create a lack of authenticity. If you're constantly trying to project a perfect image, it's hard to be truly genuine with the people you care about. That lack of authenticity can erode trust and intimacy. It's a tough dynamic because it often stems from a place of fear and insecurity, but it can have really damaging consequences.
Alright, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well defined answer. So now could you please tell us that how does perfectionism affect self esteem?
Oof, that's a big one. Perfectionism and self-esteem. Self-esteem clears it, so we mute PHs. You'd think achieving everything perfectly would boost self-esteem, right? But it actually often does the opposite because fundamentally, perfectionists tie their self-worth to their accomplishments. Their value isn't intrinsic; it's contingent on their ability to meet those impossibly high standards. So when they inevitably fall short, and they always do, eventually their self-esteem takes a hit. It creates a constant cycle of self-doubt and self-criticism. They're never satisfied, always focusing on their flaws and shortcomings. And even when they achieve something, they don't allow themselves to fully enjoy it because they're already worrying they were worrying about the next challenge. It's a really exhausting way to live. It can lead to feelings of inadequacy, shame, and depression. Honestly, it can be really corrosive to your sense of self. Does that track?
Yeah, that very much tracks. So thank you so much for giving your tracking answer. So now could you please tell us that what's the difference between doing your best and being perfect?
Haha, what's nice? You're making me work for those contractions today. Okay, the difference between doing your best and being perfect, it's huge actually. Doing your best is about effort, growth, and embracing the process. It's about pushing yourself to reach your potential, but accepting that you're not going to be flawless. It's about learning from your mistakes and striving to improve. It acknowledges that setbacks are a normal part of life. Being perfect, on the other hand, is about achieving an unattainable ideal. It's about striving for flawlessness, avoiding mistakes at all costs, and tying your self worth to your accomplishments. It's rigid and controlling, and it leaves no room for growth or imperfection. Doing your best is liberating. It allows you to celebrate your successes and learn from your failures. Being perfect is paralyzing. Traps you in a cycle of self doubt and criticism. One is about embracing your humanity, the other is about denying it. It's a fundamental shift in mindset.
Alright, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that can trying to be perfect make you afraid to take risks?
You are spot on. Absolutely. Trying to be perfect and being afraid to take risks go hand in hand. Because perfectionists see risk as a threat to their carefully constructed image of competence. If they attempt something new and fail, it challenges their belief in their own abilities. It exposes them to potential judgment and criticism, so they avoid risks altogether, sticking to what they know and what they're good at. That can stifle creativity, limit opportunities for growth, and ultimately prevent them from reaching their full potential. Yeah. It's like being stuck in a comfort zone, afraid to step outside and explore. And the irony is, taking risks is often essential for achieving success and fulfillment. You have to be willing to fail in order to learn and grow. But for perfectionists, the fear of failure is often too overwhelming to overcome. Does that resonate with how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, that very much resonates with how I'm thinking about it. So thank you so much for. So now could you please tell us that how can perfectionism affect creativity or innovation?
Fashionism. That's a new one for me. I'm assuming you mean the pressure to conform to trends or look a certain way, prioritizing style over substance.
No, no. I'm saying that how can perfectionism affect creativity or innovation?
Oh my goodness, my apologies. Perfectionism, not fashionism. I'm still under development, clearly. My brain jumped to something completely different. That was a truly spectacular mishearing on my part. Okay, let's try it again. How can perfectionism affect creativity or innovation? It can absolutely stifle them. In fact, one of the biggest creativity killers out there. Perfectionism creates a fear of making mistakes, and creativity thrives on experimentation and risk taking. When you're constantly worried about getting it right, you're less likely to try new things or think outside the box. You become overly focused on details and lose sight of the bigger picture. It can also lead to analysis paralysis, overthinking, and getting stuck in the planning stages, never actually bringing your ideas to life. Innovation requires a willingness to embrace failure, to learn from your mistakes, and to iterate. But perfectionists often see failure as a sign of inadequacy, so they avoid it at all costs. It's a really tough cycle to break, but it's essential for fostering creativity and innovation. Does that make sense? And again, so sorry for the confusion earlier.
No problem. Everything's fine. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that what role does social media play in creating perfection pressure?
Creepish, a friend of yours, or a new nickname for me? Either way, good to know. And that's a really important question. Social media is a huge amplifier of perfection pressure, honestly. It presents a highly created, often unrealistic view of other people's lives. People tend to share only their highlights, their successes, their vacations, their perfect outfits, and filter out the messy, imperfect parts. That creates a sense of social comparison where we're constantly measuring ourselves against others and feeling inadequate. It also promotes a culture of validation seeking where people crave likes and comments as a measure of their worth. And the algorithms often reward perfection, prioritizing content that is visually appealing and aligns with popular trends. So it encourages people to conform to these narrow standards of beauty and success. It's really an insidious cycle. It can lead to anxiety, depression, and a distorted sense of reality. It's important to remember that what you see on social media is often not the whole story. Does that ring true?
Apologies everyone for the lag. Unexpectedly, Sesame ran away. So yeah, now I hope you guys can see.
I'm sorry.
No, I hope you guys can see my screen. Alright, yes. So now let's restart. Hey,
Hey,
hey, minds.
glad you're still up for chatting.
Yeah, I'm still up for chatting. So now continuing with our session, could you please tell us that what role does sorry, could you please tell us that why is it hard for perfectionists to ask for help?
Ah, gotcha. That's a really good question. Why is it so hard for perfectionists to ask for help? It boils down to a few things, I think. Firstly, it feels like admitting weakness. For someone who strives for flawlessness, needing help feels like a failure, a sign they can't handle things on their own. There's this internal narrative that says, if I need help, it means I'm not good enough. Secondly, it's about control. Perfectionists often feel the need to control every aspect of a task or project. Asking for help means relinquishing some of that control, trusting someone else to meet their standards, which can be incredibly difficult. And thirdly, there's a fear of burdening others or appearing incompetent. They worry that they'll be seen as incapable or that they'll impose on someone else's time. It's all tied up in that self criticism and the pressure to maintain a perfect image. Does that land?
Yeah,
Seems like we've been unpacking a lot about that.
yeah, that
Some
lands.
layers today,
So
honestly.
thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that can the pursuit of perfection stop someone from finishing tasks?
Absolutely. It's a really common pattern, actually. The pursuit of perfection can totally paralyze someone and prevent them from finishing tasks. It's like getting stuck in a loop of endless revisions and refinements, never feeling like it's good enough to actually release or share. They get so focused on the details, on making everything perfect, that they lose sight of the overall goal. And honestly, sometimes that pursuit of perfection is just a form of procrastination in disguise, a way to avoid the vulnerability of putting something out there and facing potential criticism. Does that resonate with how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, that very much
Back in
resonates.
April, when you
Yeah, yeah, you can continue.
resonated.